The most powerful man in the world wrote a diary by candlelight. Not for fame. Not for legacy. Not because he wanted anyone to read it. For himself. So that he would not forget who he was when no one was watching. So that when he stood at the edge of his empire, with everything he could possibly want, he could still remember what was actually worth wanting. He did not call it philosophy. He did not call it a book. He called it to himself. 2 simple words. And then he wrote in a language he understood, short, hard, honest, about how to live a single day well. About how to act when no one is looking. About how to die without regret. About how to want less. He did this almost every night for the last 12 years of his life. He never tried to publish it. He probably believed it would be burned with him. It was not. And what survived is the closest thing the ancient world ever gave us to the truth. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He ruled the Roman Empire at the height of its power. 3 continents under his hand. Armies that answered to a word. Wealth that could not be counted by any single man alive. He could have had anything. Any palace. Any pleasure. Anything that money was invented to touch. He could have feasted every evening of his life. He could have built 100 monuments to his own name. He could have lived behind walls so high that the world would never have touched him again. And what he wrote about, alone in the dark, was almost the opposite. He wrote about a man who walked through the city like any other citizen. About a man who answered his own door. About a man who said, when offered the largest house in Rome, that he did not need more rooms than a man could sleep in. He understood something that almost no one with power understands. That the moment you stop choosing your life, and let your wealth choose it for you, you become a stranger inside it. He wrote about wanting almost nothing at all. He wrote about simple food, eaten without ceremony. About a worn cloak he kept long after he could afford a new one. About a man who slept on a hard bed because soft beds, he said, make weak men. He wrote about the discipline of being grateful for cold water on a hot day, and warm bread on a cold one, and a friend who would tell you the truth when no one else would. And then, the line he kept coming back to, almost like a quiet warning to himself, almost like the only thing he was really afraid of forgetting. Wealth, he wrote, is not in what you have. Wealth is in what you no longer need. He wrote it again in another notebook a year later. He wrote it a 3rd time in the last months of his life. It was the closest thing he had to a private prayer. A man with 3 continents under his hand. Repeating to himself, quietly, in the dark, that the only real wealth is the wanting that has been put down. Then the plague came. It is called the Antonine Plague now. At the time it had no name. It came back from the Eastern Front with the soldiers, and it did not stop. Whole districts of Rome went silent. People died in the houses they had been born in. Marcus lost his wife. He lost most of his children, one by one, in rooms much smaller than the throne rooms he sat in. He buried at least 5 sons. He kept writing. He did not write about how unfair it was. He did not write about what he was owed. He did not write about the gods abandoning him. He wrote about what was still his, today, to choose. He wrote about the small grace of being a man who could still act well, even when the world would not. And then he wrote a sentence that almost no one quotes, because it is too hard. He wrote that the empire, the gold, the armies, even his own life, none of it was ever really his. He had been borrowing it for a while. And now, like everything borrowed, it was being asked back. Now. Stop here for a second. Look up from this. Look at where you are. Look at the room around you. The table you are sitting at. The screen you are watching. The hour of your one and only life that you are spending right now on this. You are alive in a year that man could not have imagined. You can speak to almost anyone on the planet in the time it takes to draw a breath. You can buy almost anything you want from a small piece of glass in your hand. You are, in nearly every measurable way, more powerful than Marcus Aurelius ever was. And the question that he was writing about, alone in the dark, by candlelight, 2,000 years ago, is the same question that is quietly underneath your day. You just have not stopped long enough yet to hear it. You are not him. You are not running an empire. You are running a life. But that life, your one life, is quietly full of the same question he was writing about in a tent, by a candle, while everything around him was falling apart. How much is enough? How much is actually mine to want? How much of my one short life am I spending to chase how much? Sit with it for a second. Not as a thought exercise. As a real thing. When you scroll, when you buy, when you take on more work, what part of you is doing it? The part that already has what it needs and is moving toward what it loves. Or the part that is afraid. That somewhere out there is a number, a status, a thing that will finally make it safe to stop running. He had 3 continents and he never reached that number. You will not reach it either. The number does not exist. That is the whole quiet point. Most people will never stop to ask. Most people will fill the question with noise. With the next purchase. The next promotion. The next dopamine drip that whispers, you are getting somewhere. And for a moment, in the dim blue light of the next thing, it feels true. And then it goes quiet again. And then they need a louder one. And another. And another. Until one day they look up and 10 years have passed and the room is full of objects that were supposed to mean something. And none of them do. They were never going to. That was never the contract. The thing you actually wanted, the quiet sense that your life is your own, was never on sale. It was never something money could deliver. It was always something you had to choose. Most people will not choose. They will outsource the choice to the next purchase. Marcus knew that. He could see it walking through the markets of Rome 2,000 years ago. He would see it walking through your phone tonight. And he knew. He knew the thing almost no one says out loud. That wealth is not the size of what you own. Wealth is the size of what you no longer need. Read that one more time, slowly. Because everything in your world is engineered to make you forget it. The man who needs 100 things in order to feel okay is poor at any salary. He is poor in a 1-bedroom apartment. He is poor in a 40-room villa. The wanting follows him in. The man who can sit alone, in a quiet room, and need almost nothing, that man is already free. He was free before the money. He will be free after the money. The money was never the point. Marcus had armies, and he understood that. He had armies, and he chose to want less than the average citizen of his city. Most of us have a phone, and we don't. So tonight, here is the first quiet thing he would have you do. Look at one thing you bought this month that you did not actually need. Not to feel guilty. Not to swear off ever buying again. Not to put on a hair shirt and call yourself a stoic. Just to see. Just to know that you saw it. Just to admit, only to yourself, quietly, in the same place he wrote his diary, that some part of you was buying something that money was never going to deliver. Maybe you were buying a feeling. Maybe you were buying a story about who you wanted to be. Maybe you were buying a few minutes of forgetting. Whatever it was, the money is gone now, and the feeling is gone too, and that is the lesson the wallet was trying to teach you all along. Notice it. Do not punish yourself for it. Just notice it. The man who can notice it is the man who, eventually, stops needing it. And he wrote a second thing, quieter and harder. He wrote that you cannot control the world. Not the market. Not the empire. Not other people's choices about their money. You cannot make your boss promote you on a fair timeline. You cannot make your investment go up. You cannot stop your friend from buying the thing you wanted first. You cannot stop the world from being noisier than you, faster than you, richer than you, more impressive than you. The only thing you can actually control is what you do, tomorrow morning, the moment you wake up. Whether you do the small honest thing you said you would. Whether you pick up the work you've been avoiding. Whether you keep one quiet promise to yourself before the day takes you. He wrote this when he was leading an army through a plague. If he could write it then, you can hear it now. So when the price of your stock falls, that is not the test. When your raise does not come, that is not the test. When your friend buys the house first, the car first, the freedom first, that is not the test. None of that is the test. The test is what you do in the next 30 seconds. Whether you go quiet inside, reach for the same old comfort, the same scroll, the same drink, the same revenge purchase that quietly steals from your future self. Or whether, this once, you simply do the next honest thing on your own list and let the rest be the rest. Let your friend be ahead. Let the market be the market. Let the empire be the empire. Marcus had an empire trying to take him under, and he still woke up every morning and wrote one honest page. You have a Tuesday. You can write one honest page. And the last thing he wrote, almost as a whisper to himself, almost as something he did not quite want to know. He wrote that every morning, you should wake up and treat the day as if it were the last one you ever got. Because one of them is going to be. And you will not know which. He was not being dramatic. He was being mathematical. There is a final morning, and it is already on the calendar, you simply have not seen the date yet. And every hour you spend chasing money that you do not actually want, in exchange for a life that you are not actually living, that hour is not coming back. He wrote that in the field, with the dead and dying on every side of him. As an emperor who could have written anything. And he chose to write that. Because he understood that the only real currency anyone is ever spending is time. And the people who understand that very late are the ones who weep in the last room. The people who understand it early are quietly free. So the question tonight is not how to earn more. The question is what you would actually do tomorrow if tomorrow was not promised. Would you spend the extra hour on the side hustle that quietly drains you for a number that never quite arrives? Would you spend it doom scrolling at 1 in the morning for a feeling that never comes? Would you spend it polishing a version of yourself that you do not even like for an audience that is not actually watching? Or would you spend it on the one thing you have been telling yourself you will get to later? The call you have been not making. The work that is actually yours to do. The walk you keep promising your body. The conversation with the person on the other side of the room, the one who, when this is all over, will be the only one who actually remembers you. Most people will not stop to ask. Most people will keep running. They will earn more and spend more and need more and feel less. They will buy the better car, the better watch, the better version of a life they did not actually want. And the wanting will keep being a step ahead, the way it always was. The way Marcus saw it being 2,000 years ago. And one day, far enough from now that it does not feel real tonight, they will look up. The room will be quiet. The phone will be face down. The chase will be over because the time has run out, not because they finally won. And the diary they never wrote will be the life they almost lived. The conversation they never had. The version of themselves that was always one quiet evening away. That is the only tragedy worth being afraid of. Not poverty. Not failure. The quiet disappearance of the life you were actually going to live into the life you were too busy to choose. Marcus Aurelius died on a cold campaign in a tent, far from Rome. He died of the same plague that took most of his children. He died with almost nothing he started with. The empire was burning at the edges. The armies were tired. The gold was being counted by other hands. And he had everything that actually mattered. He had a mind that was still his. He had a quiet that did not depend on a balance. He had a small worn diary that he was never trying to publish, that he probably believed would die with him, that 2,000 years later, somehow, is in your hand tonight. He knew. He knew the only thing that lasts is the part of you that money never bought. And tonight, now that you have stopped, even for a few minutes, even just to listen, even just to remember, so do you. The richest man in the empire died with almost nothing. And had everything. Now you know how.